Today, I'll hop into a game called Wuthering Waves, studying their character models, environments, analyzing the evolution of their designs, plus a little bit of gameplay as I walk around the world and doing some fun stuff. In the end, I'll also share a bit of my thoughts about the recent Cyberpunk Edge Runners collab, so let's get into it. Hi, my name is Astel and welcome. Oh, the NPCs are talking. Oh, everyone is talking. I need a place to... Oh my god. I need a place to do my intro because everyone is talking apparently. Let me just do this. Ugh. I think this is a good place. Alright, let's do our intro. Okay. Look at my rover. She's vibrating. Hi, my name is Astel and welcome to Astonished Animations, where we talk about 3D anime. And today I will be studying with you guys this anime style action gacha game called Wuthering Waves. I'm really bad with action games, but this game has some insanely detailed character designs, and also just look at the map. And this is really just one of the maps of the game that looks a little bit more modern and techy. There are also other maps that's filled with nature or maybe some European architectures. But yeah, today as I take you guys for a walk in this map called Startorch Academy, we'll be taking a look at how Wuthering Waves design their environments and also the characters. And I also want to let you guys know that today we are studying a style, so don't see this as the best way of rendering your 3D anime. Okay, today we are just going in with curiosity and let's just get inspired together, and hopefully we can mix and match with all these little tricks and create our own style when it comes to our own 3D art. So yeah, let's go. Okay. By the way, this game is also currently having a collab with Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Oh my god. They look so cool. Okay. Let me just claim these pools first. Oh my god. They have LUCILLA's icon here, but she's not even out yet. She is probably out like few days later. But let me just go ahead and claim my free Rebecca really quick. Oh my god. It's coming. It's coming. Oh my god. The style. The style. Oh, it lagged for a little bit. I mean, just look at this. Like, they perfectly captured her personality, like her facial expressions. Like, imagine all the shape keys they have to do for all these tiny expressions. And this is free. Like, this is a free character. Free 5-star characters. Like, however, I'm going to pull for Lucy, and a few days later, I'll also pull for LUCILLA. So basically, I am so screwed. So let me get into the character screen for a little bit. This is actually our female MC, or the main character, and she's called Rover. You can also switch to the male version of the MC, and you can switch between them all the time, but she actually has one of my favorite outfits in the game, which is the Startorch Academy uniform. And she actually has an original outfit which looks like this. This game really evolved a lot over time, because this obviously came from the early game, and this outfit is from the recent patches. And you can see that they have added a lot of tiny patterns or fabric textures onto their clothing. And as you can see in the original early game outfit, you don't really see a lot of tiny details like that. So that's a huge upgrade on their designs, and I really appreciate that as a player. And let me just go ahead and zoom in for the original outfit and just take a look at the hair, especially for the highlights and also the detail at the top. This is the original. And if I switch to the newer outfit, you can see that their new highlights actually moves around as I pan around the camera, and they are kind of rainbow colored. I don't know what's the right word, but it's colorful. And for the old highlights, they're really just painted onto their characters, so it doesn't really move. And also, if you take a closer look around the top of her hair, even the base texture itself has a lot more detail. You can see the difference in detail around this area, and also the shapes of the shadows around here. And you can even see there's a tiny gradient around the edge of the shadows. And obviously they are using Unreal Engine, but I would love to try to recreate this in Blender. And a lot of you guys might have noticed already that despite this game being an anime style game, they don't always use like cell shading and toon shading on their characters, especially for the clothing and also for the environment. I would say most of the game is actually leaning more onto the PBR side. And I guess the first point I want to share is that you don't always need toon shading or cell shading for your anime style renders. So mostly you want to use toon shading for a character's face and also their skin and also their hair, but for the clothing and also the environment, for the props, it's a little bit more flexible. You can play around with a mix between a toon shading and also a physically based PBR shading. As long as everything is in harmony, they look good together, you can be a little bit more flexible. You don't always have to restrict yourself into using some form of toon shading. As you can see that Rover's uniform right here, there's a lot of metallic and reflective parts, so definitely there are a lot of normal maps and metallic maps and roughness map involved. But in order for the clothes to look good with the character's face and also their hair with all these stylized parts, they don't exactly use a plain PBR like default material, right? In Blender terms, it's not just a principled BSDF with a base color with normal map and roughness map. It's not just that. Let's think about maybe the principled BSDF from Blender or just a default PBR shader, right? You just plug in the base color, the metallic maps, roughness maps, normal maps, and they all come together and define this material, right? The property and the look of the material. But for more stylized materials that still uses maps like roughness maps and metallic maps and normal maps and all that, like the clothing of Wuthering Waves, you still want the base color to stand out a little bit more. So basically all the other maps like normal maps and metallic maps and roughness maps, they are just adding some details in a very controlled way onto the base color. So this is how a regular PBR shader is going to look like in Blender. So you have all these maps like base color, metallic, roughness, normal, and they just all come into this one principled BSDF node. This is a very standard PBR setup for stylized shaders that you can see on Wuthering Waves characters' clothing. They still probably use a lot of these maps, but there is still a bit more bias towards the base color. So maybe instead of a setup like this, maybe I can like separate the base color, for example, and just leave all the other maps in the principled BSDF. And then I can go through maybe the shader to RGB just like this, and just mix that on top of the base color. And maybe I can just use the color ramp to just colorize the principled BSDF shadows a little bit before I multiply on top of the base color. And maybe I can just use the Fresnel to add a little bit of highlights just like that. But this is just a very quick example, but I guess from what I can tell, they don't really use a standard PBR setup. It's more like a stylized shader that still uses a lot of maps, and these maps help the stylized shader look a little bit more realistic compared to like a traditional cell shading. But I guess it still depends on which part of the clothing they're trying to render. So maybe for Augusta, there are a lot of metallic parts, so maybe for metallic parts they'll be leaning more onto the PBR side, and for the fabrics maybe there will be more emphasis on the base color and leaning more onto the stylized side. I'm not sure if I'm putting this together in the right way, but that's my observation, because that's the way you can keep your character look consistent throughout the entire body, so you won't end up having some parts of your character that looks extremely realistic and some part looks extremely stylized. You know, something like that won't happen if you just have a little bit more bias towards the base color when it comes to parts like your clothing. But if you guys have your own findings and opinions, feel free to share in the comments. Just let me know, because I, just like many people, am just a person who's really passionate with 3D anime, and I really just want to learn more, and we can all learn together in the comments, right? So yeah. And we can also take a look at characters like Augusta right here. She's probably my strongest DPS right now. She has a lot of metallic parts on her outfit. It's really cool. And it's really interesting because if I zoom in, you can almost see a little bit of chromatic aberration on her shoulder parts right here. And I always think that Wuthering Waves, they have applied a light layer of chromatic aberration for most part of the games. So that really sells the futuristic, high-tech vibe of the game. So let me go back to Rover really quick because I want to show you guys what they did with their base texture. As you can see, there are a lot of painted shading on their clothes. So under the collar, you can see there's a dark area that doesn't really move with a real-time shading because that's actually painted onto the texture. And also under the collar over here, these dark parts are also painted onto the texture. And also under here around the seam, and there are also some highlights that are also painted, like these little white highlights. They are painted onto the texture. These highlights around the seams. So yeah, that basically happens all over her outfit and also for other characters as well. So most of the time you want your anime characters to look good with just the base color, without all the shading, without all the reflections, because according to my observations, I think anime style or any stylized rendering is a little bit more biased towards the base color. So you want a lot of painted details on your character's clothing, on your character's hair, and that way you can also make sure your character looks consistent across different scenes and different scenarios. And if we take a look at older characters like Yinlin, they already look pretty detailed, right? Of course, if we zoom in, we can't really see those new fabric textures. They still look pretty good already. Like this is one of the early game characters, and I really like this part of her arm with her strings. It's really cool. It's glowing. By the way, I don't really have String Master. You see, I've only one 5-star rectifier basically. I kind of gave her weapon to someone else, probably like, I don't know, maybe Cantarella. And I think I really like most of the characters that I like are Onesan characters like Gerobrina, Changli, Zani, and what, Cantarella? Of course, Yinlin. Never forget about Yinlin. So another thing that I want to talk about is how characters' faces are modeled in Wuthering Waves. So if I go ahead and take a look at maybe Phoebe and take a look at her face. So if I turn around from the sides, you can kind of see, I'm not sure if you can tell because of the hair, but if we just pay attention to the area between the tip of the nose to around the end of the eye socket right here. So this area, this depth right here, this area is usually more flat. So if I turn around for a little bit, you can kind of see the cheeks and the eye is kind of more like in line with each other. So these areas are relatively flat, especially when you compare to the older characters. And personally, I think there is an advantage when you model your anime characters' faces in a relatively flat way, I guess. So there's a problem that I used to run into when I was modeling anime faces in the past, and that is the anime faces that I used to model, they look pretty okay from the front. But as soon as I turn the character sideways, or maybe I look at the character's face at an angle, the models start to look really weird. And that's probably because I used to model my anime characters' faces like I'm modeling a real-life, realistic person's face. And naturally, a realistic person's face has a lot of depth in it, from the eye sockets to the nose to the cheeks to the mouth, and how everything just kind of wraps around your skull. But one thing to always remember is that anime faces do not make sense. So instead of thinking how everything should look realistically when you model an anime face, it is more important to understand how the character will be drawn in 2D space. And not only it is important for you to know how the characters is gonna look like from the front, you also want to know how the character is gonna be drawn, maybe at an angle or maybe from the sides. But that really comes to intention because anime is a very broad term. Sometimes you can use more realistic models in anime and that's totally fine. And that's kind of a style thing, but I guess I'm trying to describe the general style of anime with all these big eyes and pointy noses. So I've imported Phoebe's model that I got from the official website of Wuthering Waves, and for some reasons part of her model is not in the right color, but I guess it has something to do with their textures. And if you want to import Wuthering Waves model into Blender, you probably need an older version of Blender, and you will also need the MMD tools add-on so you can import PMX files into Blender. But yeah, let's take a look at her face. And maybe if I take a look at her face from the bottom angle, it's a little bit more clear that the face structure is kind of flat. And in my opinion, if you model anime characters in this style with a lot of depth, then as soon as you turn your character sideways or just slightly at an angle, that depth might start to cause some distortions to your anime face. As things wraps around at an angle, maybe it'll be a little bit harder to see the other eye at an angle just like this. So the short explanation is that when you model your character's face in a more flatter way, can't English, under different angles, your character will still consistently look like how they would be drawn in 2D space or 2D anime, and it will also be easier to see the entire face under different angles for better expressions. But like I said, anime is a very broad term. You have many different styles when it comes to anime. You don't need to always follow these rules or methods to model your characters. Just be very clear with your intention. That's the most important. How do you want them to look like if you draw them on a 2D space? How do you want your characters to look like in the end result? Grab yourselves some references, or maybe just pull out your iPad or your pen and paper to just draw your character in different angles and how do you want them to look like. The reason why Wuthering Waves have their characters modeled this way is because this is how they intend their characters to look like. And you can kind of see there's also a difference between the older and the newer models. So the model on the right is an older character and the model on the left is newer. So if you pay attention to the front part of the face, and if I rotate their faces, you can kind of tell that the newer characters are a little bit more flat compared to the older characters when it comes to the face part. So you can see around these areas, the older characters, their cheeks are a little bit more, I guess, puffed. And I won't really say which way of modeling the face is better because both of these faces are very pretty, to be honest. And I would say this is more like a stylistic choice because I think with the newer characters like Shigurika and all the Lahairoi characters, I think they have a lot more facial expressions, and maybe because of that, having a flatter face is going to help them present a lot of those facial expressions a lot more clearly, I guess. And if I zoom in with the wireframes, you can kind of see as well the difference between the amount of geometry they're putting into the characters. So maybe the eyes in the older models, they're a little bit more low poly, but the newer models, they are really smooth. You can see around the silhouette of the iris, and of course with the eyelashes, you can kind of see a clear difference between the texture painting. I mean, what can I say? Their models just got even better. Like, it was pretty good already in the past, to be honest, but it now just got even better. Maybe for my personal preference, I still prefer the puffy cheeks from the older models, but it's still pretty cute, the newer models. But we shouldn't forget that they have a lot of shape keys or blend shapes in their model. So maybe there's something I can do, like I can turn this all the way up, and now Shigurika's cheek is puffed, fully puffed, just like that. But maybe for a specific shot, we just want the cheek to be a little bit more puffed, but not so puffed, so I can turn it down to like 0.2, right? Just a little bit, right? They can do slight changes just like this in every single shot with all these shape keys that they have access to. Like, just look at the amount of facial expressions you can do. You can even do things like this. Basically, you're just hiding the iris behind the eye socket. Simple stuff. You can also remove the highlights, and you can even remove just one side of the highlight. That's insane. And even things like that for very cartoony effects, I guess. Oh, they even have two versions of that. They also have tears as well, and apparently it's just a plane with the texture, of course. Nande. Oh, so funny. They even have really tiny controls just like that. Right? The corner of the mouth just moved for a tiny bit. And you know, things like this makes all the difference. Like, they really focus on the tiny expressions a lot with their newer characters, and I really appreciate that. You can move the nose like she's smelling something, I guess. You can do things like that. Face red. I guess I don't have the alpha stuff set up correctly, so it kind of looks weird with some of the expressions. But yeah, that's basically how they model their newer characters' faces right now. And they also did this thing where The front hair of the characters, they are kind of semi-transparent, so you can see the eyebrows, the eyelashes, and the eyes. And usually you can do something like this with transparency in your materials or having some form of rendering order. I'm not sure how you can arrange the rendering order in Blender. I think Goo Engine has a node for rendering orders, but I haven't really looked into it with Blender, so maybe I need to do some digging. But as mentioned, you guys can also share your own tips and tricks in the comment section so we can all learn together. And of course, let me just go ahead and take a look at Rebecca because I'm so excited for the Cyberpunk collab. Oh, the yo. This kind of reminds me of, I used to play Craftopia, and there's this guy who always starts his guide videos with, yo! yo! But I'm gonna pull for Lucy as well. And I want their weapons, okay? I want both of their weapons. And also LUCILLA, and also LUCILLA's weapon. I need them all. So yeah, like I said, I am screwed. So maybe I'll do the trials for Lucy and Rebecca first. So if you guys don't play the game, you can kind of see how the combat works. Oh my god, so much text. So much text to read. Can I just play her? And they also have Mornier. I don't actually know how to play Mornier. I don't know how to play most of the La Hyrule characters actually, because I don't really own them. So... Oh my god. What do I do if I hit R? Okay. Like, most of the time, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I said, I am... Oh my god. It looks so cool. I'm gonna pull for that weapon, okay? And also for, of course, for Lucy's weapon as well. I totally forgot about the tutorial, so I'm gonna look for guides after this. Naruhodo wakaran. I don't know how to play them. Skill issues. Like, I'm a 3D artist, okay? That's why I'm bad at games, because I'm... Okay, let me try like one pull, okay? Let's wish for a miracle together, okay? Okay, one. Okay. It's crazy how I have to pull for all of them. So, I'm not sure. Let me just throw 10 pulls into Lucy. Okay, 10 pulls. Let's go. Okay, got it. Oh, 10 more pulls. Okay. Because I'm lucky. Oh. Guess I'm not. Let me just spend my wave plates really quick. I've been playing for 3 hours? Oh my god. Just how long have I been recording this video? Sorry for that. Right, you know what? I'm going to throw them all in, okay? Oh, let's go, man. Oh my god. Oi, don't say that. Oh my god. Anyway, we got Lucy in 30 pulls. So now that I've got Lucy and Rebecca, I can take them for a walk. So the first thing I want to show Lucy and Rebecca in Star Torch Academy are these. Recycling bins. If we take a look at the recycling bins... Sorry Lucy, you have to go. If we take a look at specifically the textures, right? Around the edges, you can see this lighter color for both of these bins. There's this lighter color running down these edges. Like... edge runners. That's so bad. Oh no. That's so bad. But yeah, for a lot of games, not just Wuthering Waves, for stylized assets, usually they have some form of edge wear or edge highlights in this case. And it's also very common to have baked in shading and ambient occlusion around these areas, as you can see. Also at the bottom over here, it has a darker color, also towards the bottom. And that's actually very common when it comes to stylized props. They usually come with baked-in shadings and also edge highlights. And I also mentioned this in one of my previous videos about how to mix PBR and NPR together. And it's actually something very similar to what I mentioned about characters' clothing, with their texturing. You want your stylized props to look somewhat shaded just with the base color alone. And we can take a look at other assets around the academy. So if you take a look at the top of the vehicle, you can see that they have painted the edges in a lighter color. And there are also some strong ambient occlusions being baked onto the textures around these green parts. You know, this part of the map is like ASMR but for your eyes. If you understand what I mean. It feels really fluffy. It's ASMR to my eyes, basically. And this game has a lot of nice looking foliage like these flowers, but if you just take a look at them at an angle, they are really just two planes intersecting each other. Maybe a little bit of additional geometry for the flowers themselves. And if you look closely, they are not exactly like all connected. Like just look at this flower, it's just floating. But you can't really notice all these details from afar. So maybe a lot of you are just Blender users and you're not making a game, you're just making 3D art in Blender. But it's still a pretty good practice to optimize your scene in similar ways. So yeah, unless your models are meant to be viewed from a very close distance or is the main focus of the shot, I would say most of the time you can just replace your models with a bunch of planes, and that's totally fine. So if we take a look at this area where we have a lot of NPCs, a lot of students around here, everything just looks so in harmony. Everything just fits so well together. The realistic environment, the stylized characters, everything looks so good together even though they are not exactly all being rendered in the same way. There are a lot of tiny little things that can help bring this harmony between your stylized characters and also the realistic environment. For example, some screen space effects like glow. As you can see a lot of glow on Lucy right now. And those kind of effects really help blur those separation between your characters and the environment. And a lot of basic things like colors, hues, saturations, brightness, contrast. All these things, they seem to be some of the most basic stuff, but those are factors that really determine whether your characters and environment are going to look well together or not. What are you guys doing here? Let me fix that. And if we walk around the map, you can kind of tell that the characters do not always react to every single light and every single shadow casted by other objects. But there are a lot of things you can do, like tinting your characters a little bit more blue when it's at night, or making your characters a little bit more orange when it's time for sunset or sunrise. Oh, what a nice sunset. I know that's not like a real sun, but it's beautiful. You can also see those little textures coming out of the artificial sun. It's really cool. Subtle details like this. And yeah, just by changing the colors of your characters for a little bit based on the environment can really help your characters blend into the background. And you can do things like that by making your character's material react to lights in the scene, or maybe just have a global parameter, a night and day parameter that affects your character's tint overall. Of course, things like that are a little bit easier to do in game engines. But yeah, maybe in Blender, you can just have a little bit more additional control in your material nodes, and that will be sufficient. And you can also do things like lighting your character separately from the scene itself, from the background itself. So maybe your characters will be using a separate set of lights, and the scene itself will be using another set of lights. And you can do something like that in Blender using functions like light linking. That helps what. And yeah, like I said, characters in Wuthering Waves, they probably do not react to every single light because the shadow shapes will be very weird looking if they react to every single light. It probably won't look as clean as what you see right here on Lucy. It's really beautiful. Oh my god, her model. And in game engines, you also have things like real-time, screen space, effects, and color grading and color corrections. And that can really achieve a better balance between the colors, between your characters, and also the environment. But of course, if you're just making some form of 3D render with Blender or other 3D softwares, then you can use something like post-processing, and you can do things like compositing in Blender using the compositor nodes, or you can just put your Blender renders into Photoshops or After Effects to do some post-processing. And in Blender, you can also use something like Cryptomatte to separate your character and the background so you can color correct or color grade them separately. Keep running, keep running. Oh, he just pieced out like that. What? They're so scared of Lucy, they just pieced out like that. Ugh, okay. Well, there's something interesting I actually want to show you guys. Wait. I think it's around here. Okay. These bushes over here. If I take a look inside the bush, you can see that even the branches, they're just a part of a texture. They aren't actual geometry. And you can see some of the leaves are actually not connected to the branches, but that doesn't really matter because as long as everything looks good from a distance, and you won't really like walk up to a bush and just take a look at what's inside, right? So unless you're looking for a chest or something, I guess. So yeah, if you're placing a lot of foliage around your scene, then just consider replacing a lot of those tiny leaves and even the branches with just some textured plain, because that's gonna save you a lot of rendering time. Of course, for these branches, they're a little bit more exposed, so they are going to use actual geometry. Just take a look at my bike. Wait, what? Shigurika? Why is Shigurika? Oh, did you guys see that? Oh, what happened with that thing? Physics.exe has stopped working. Wait, it's squishy. It's squishy. This thing is squishy. Well, wait. Yeah, they kind of oh, it's deforming really hard. Oh. What? Okay, I never really paid attention to things like this until I made this video. So I have finished playing the Cyberpunk Edge Runners collab story. I'm going to try my best and not talk about the plot, but if you guys want to play the story yourself, I guess you can skip this part of the video. I think this collab is a really wonderful love letter to the original anime and also the Cyberpunk game. Personally, I only watched the anime and I didn't really play the Cyberpunk game myself. I just watched people played it. But there are a lot of references and a lot of Cyberpunk soundtracks and background musics throughout the entire quest. And of course the song, I Really Want to Stay at Your House, it hits really hard. I think I was already starting to tear up around like 15 minutes into the quest. The entire collab was really well done, and I think there's this part of the map in Night City that's a little bit buggy, but overall it was a really good experience, and I was kind of struggling to sleep last night because I just kept thinking about the story. Just look at these rows, man. Like, what do you want from me, Atom Smasher? They do give a lot of character pools, but I do hope they actually give a little bit of the weapon pools as well, because I think I need a little bit more of these, because usually I want to go for one copy of the character and also one copy of their signature if I really like them, and of course I like both of them. But overall, I'm very happy with the collab, and I am a day one Wuthering Waves player, so I started playing when the game launched. I think this game has improved a lot. This game was out like 2 years ago, and the character models really got a lot more detailed. And the story writing also got a lot more better compared to like the first quest in Jinzhou. Maybe I'm not that big of a fan with the Gathering Wives stuff, but overall the story writing has been a lot more better. Oh my god, there's a chest. I think I'm more like a casual player. I don't do a lot of explorations and endgame stuff in this game. But I think everyone has their own playstyle, and you don't really have to play through everything in the game to tell people that you have played the game, I guess. Just in case you guys don't know, you can actually hit Alt-C to hide your UI just like this. Right? Nice little shortcut. It's like I'm filming a Blender video for a second, but I hope you guys can take something useful away from this video so you can develop your own 3D anime style. Take care, have a great day, and okay, bonus part. Gacha. Let's go. Got it. Oh. Okay, let's try the character. Maybe I'll do Lucy, okay? Maybe 10 more pulls. What? What? Oh, it's okay. I got Lucy already. Welcome, Verena. You're very welcome. I mean, it's an early 5-star, so I can't really complain about anything. But yeah, I guess that's really it this time. So, and keep having fun if you are a 3D artist. You know, I think having fun is the most important. Don't stress yourself out too much when creating art, and just try to go for a lighthearted state when you're Making art, I think that's when creativity flows the most and you get the most inspired. You don't want to feel like you're constantly fighting Adam's measure. Shut up. Can you just, like, stop talking? There's this concept that I learned, which is to always follow your highest excitement. So now I'm gonna follow my highest excitement because LUCILLA is here. And I've saved up like 50 pulls here and also 20 pulls here. And it's a guaranteed, so let's go. Yeah, last time I lost my 50-50 to Encore when I tried to go for Hyuki. Let's go. It's close. Okay, let's go. Alright. Let us witness the beauty of our president. Oh.
人生は絶え間ない思い出の連続。そして思い出はつなぎ合わされた人生そのものよ。
This is what I call perfection. What? 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 Oh my god! Oh my god! Two?
人生は絶え間ない思い出
Oh
の連続
my god.
そして思い出は
Two
つなぎ合わさ
LUCILLAs.
れた人生
What
そ
the?
のものよ。
Oh my god. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Two LUCILLA in 10 pulls. Oh my god. Can I get 3? Oh. Oh my god. I'm gonna make sure I'm recording this. Oh my god. Yeah, I'm recording this. Okay, nice. Let's try to go for the weapon as well. I have like 20 pulls. I think if I can't get her weapon this time, I'm gonna probably wait for the rerun. So... Oh, check this out. I don't think they have weapon animations before, so I think that's kind of new. I really like this gradient on her hair with a more saturated brighter blue and a darker blue. And also her bag right here is so stylish. And of course the classic yellow for the high-roll characters. Just look at this, just look at this. I'm gonna change my avatar. A rectifier user, of course she uses a gun. Oh, and a camera, I guess. It's like she's dancing. So beautiful. She actually snapped a photo with her skill. But I guess that's really it for today. I'm very happy. Is this like streamer luck or YouTuber luck or something? I don't know. But wish you guys good luck with everything. Sending you guys all the blessings in the world. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Ha, get it?